All right, everybody. Uh, Welcome. And thank you very much for being here tonight. I think this is session number 63, which is absolutely crazy. Tom, just to give you a little bit of background here before I introduce you, Eric and I started doing these sessions when COVID hit.
Mm.
Okay. Many of the people on here had been going to tastings together for many years, many at Binny's, but also other places. And COVID hit here in Chicago and Illinois. Everything shut down right before Whiskey Week, the week of Binny's World of Whiskeys, which
Mm.
is also a week where they happen to have tons of events all over the city at all the bars, all the stores. And that also happened to be my first whiskey week as an empty nester.
Mm.
So it was a punch to the gut. Uh,
Oh my.
yeah, it was killing me. And so Eric and I decided we had to do something. So next thing you know, we created these Zoom tastings and we use them as a forum to get to know people like you and to learn about new spirits. Just to give you a little idea of how it's going to go tonight, just our, the housekeeping items. I run the bulk of the interview. We're going to be tasting your spirits. The order, by the way, for everybody, I just posted them. 101, 111, and then 121. Okay, that's the order. And then we open it up for questions, okay, from the rest of the crowd here. And then usually after about an hour, we then turn off the recording and adjourn to an after session. And, where it's a little bit more informal at that point. So I'd like to welcome you tonight. And Tom, if you could do me a favor and introduce yourself, the name of your company, and tell us where you are right now.
Okay. My name is Tom Buchsbaum. I'm a co-founder of Austin Craft Spirits Company. We specialize in light whiskey, and we are, establishing a brand as Austin Light Whiskey Company. I'm in Austin in the hilly area, just west of town, and I've been in the whiskey business since I retired from my honest job, uh, which was in the computer world.
The computer world. So that's why you and Eric were geeking out about computers before I
Oh
came on.
yeah, I have history of computers that go back to around the first time I started drinking, and I just wonder if it's related in some way.
Well, back then, you probably did need to drink to get the computers to get to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you drank too much, you dropped your deck, and then
Love
you
it.
had more work.
So I did some reading about your distillery and your spirits, but before I get into that, I just want to remind everybody where Eric and I got to know Tom. We've told, many of you have gone with Eric and me to the Binny's Craft Spirits Show every year. Okay, it's usually in the fall. It's run by the American Craft Spirits Association, and again, I always encourage you to come, everybody to come to that event. It's not just whiskey. Okay, there are gins, there are vodkas, there are coffee liqueurs. But one thing that I love about it is that they're all, pretty much small distributors, okay, small distilleries, making some good stuff. And the people who show up at the show are the people like Tom or the people like Greg Larrikin from last time, the people who are actually making the spirits. And that's one thing that's great about it. And as you know from last time, Greg Larrikin introduced us to light whiskey, and now we have light whiskey again tonight. So, Tom, can you do us a favor? Because a number of people here were not on that first session. What exactly is light whiskey?
Okay. Light whiskey is a separate category in under the TTB Treasury Department rules that is as different from rye or bourbon or Scotch as or Irish. It follows different set of rules, and it's a unique product. It was created in 1968 by new rules regulation, and the key elements of the rules that are required to be considered light whiskey are it's got to be made from grain, any grain. but it's
Hmm.
got to be made from grain. It's got to be made in the United States of America.
Okay.
You won't find light whiskey on the shelf called light whiskey in America that was made in Mexico or Canada or Ireland. It has to be distilled to between 160 and 190 proof. Unlike bourbon or rye or wheat whiskey, which have to be distilled to less than 160 proof, typically 130 or 135 off the still. This has to be distilled to a very clean, low congener level. So it's distilled differently, and then it's aged differently. Goes into the barrel, and the barrel must be uncharred or a previously used whiskey barrel.
So it can be a virgin uncharred barrel.
Yes, it can, and you can make them. You can make light whiskey from toasted oak, just so long as it's not charred.
Fascinating. So you mentioned something here that I need to warn everybody here about, and it's related to the email that Eric sent out earlier today. I don't know if you all got that email. Everything today is, I don't want to quite use the word hazmat, but the last one definitely is. But we are dealing here with cask strength spirits. The first one, Austin 101, that's 50.5. Austin 111, that's 55.5. Austin 121, that one is 68.2. So I just want to make sure that you're all ready for that. I do have, water here to add to these if need be. So just keep that all in mind. And also remember, we don't have to stand on ceremony here. If you want to start drinking, that's fine. So Tom, tell me about with respect to the light whiskey. Um, is the grain for all three of these spirits, are all of these starting off with the same grain?
Yes and no. The
Okay.
101 and the 121 start off with exactly the same grain, and as a matter
Okay.
of fact, are distilled at the same moment. They're born
Okay.
together.
Okay.
The 111 is very different.
Okay. So let's talk about the 101. So what is the mash bill essentially
Okay,
for
now
101?
I'm not sure why, but my co-founders, when we came out with this, decided that we weren't going to disclose the exact mash bill. And it was because we thought we had some really pretty cool intellectual property that we made a light whiskey like no one had ever made before. Light whiskeys tend to be, I mean, there's 10 million gallons of light whiskey made every year in the United States, and it's used primarily for blending. It ends up in things like Seagrams, and it is designed to have a very very low flavor profile, so that when it blends, the flavors come from the other elements that are in the blend. The typical light whiskey is 99% yellow dent corn and 1% um, malt. Ours would be very similar mash bill to Maker's Mark. It is a wheated bourbon mash bill. We don't have to do that. You
Hmm.
can be light whiskey and be 99.9% corn. Um, Most light whiskeys have no flavor grain at all. We chose a flavor grain, and we chose Texas red wheat as our flavor grain because of something that we love what it does in our
And
distillate.
what corn are you using? So obviously the Texas, so you have local grains for the weeded portion of it. Well, what about the corn?
The corn is 100% non-GMO white corn. So there's no yellow dent in Austin 101 or 121 at all. It's 100% white corn. Now, y'all have had sweet corn. The sweet corn in Illinois and Indiana in July and August is just so wonderful. If you look carefully at the corn, you'll see there's a few white kernels in it. And
Right.
those are the real sweet ones. The yellow dent is what ends up being sold for cereal. It's a cereal grain. It
Uh-huh.
gets sold for animal feed. The white corn is the sweetest corn you can get your hands on,
And
and
is it local? Are you also
it
trying,
is
is
it's
that okay?
100% of the grains in Austin 101 and 121 are Texas grains. local farmers. The and the three grains were chosen for a reason. I mean, the white corn is the main ingredient. It wouldn't be a wheated bourbon mash bill if it weren't primarily corn, but
Hmm.
it's white corn instead of yellow dent, which gives it a really clean, sweet
Hmm.
profile and a very butterscotchy nose.
So what are the three? So we have the Texas white corn, we have the
And
Texas red wheat,
the
and what's the
Texas red
third?
wheat. And the third one, it's called Wildfire Malt. It's Texas grown barley, and it is malted in Fort Worth, and it's malted primarily for the craft beer world. It's not a whiskey malt.
Interesting. Because
It
when I've had light whiskeys, they usually don't have as much flavor as this one has.
Well, we
Okay.
went out of our way to and I think the malt is a key reason for that. This wildfire malt is toasted at a higher temperature. It's toasted harder than typical malt. Typically, malts used in distilleries are toasted very briefly just to stop the germination, keep the enzymes alive so that they can work in the cook. But
Yeah, this is delicious.
we've got a nuttiness that we're looking
Yeah.
for and a toasty flavor that comes, and that's one of the reasons this pairs so spectacularly with Guinness
Okay.
is those.
Everybody, I want to make sure you hear this. This is hilarious because before the session, Eric, Tom, and I were talking about, how we enjoy spirits. So can you tell us how you came up with that pairing? And so you drink the Guinness first and then the whiskey? That's how you do it?
Exactly, and then you have to say slancha. It's a requirement.
How
It's
do
a
you say that in
requirement.
Texas, though?
Slancha,
Okay.
which is not spelled the way it sounds.
Right.
Um, but I can't remember why I first did that. Someone was talking about Jameson going pretty well with on the side with Guinness, and I thought, I like Jameson. I like a lot of Irish whiskeys. And I said, I want to try it with this. And the shock was I took a big swallow of Guinness and it coated my palate. And as you all know, if you like Guinness, it's really rich. It's got a little bit of bitterness to it. It is tremendously creamy the way that its nitrogenized bubbles work. It's just creamy, rich, and
Hmm.
but a little bitter.
Right.
And it's not sweet. So many stouts in America are just so sweet. They're not drinkable. Well, this Guinness, it's on your palate. It's your palate is coated with this creamy, rich, delicious, but slightly bitter. And then you take a sip
Hmm.
of Austin 101.
And I got it. It's the so you mentioned, the malted barley. As soon as you mentioned the malted barley, I was thinking about how that could complement, the Guinness right there. That little bit of malted barley in there and how you toast it actually makes a real difference in how it pairs together. And you should know that a few people here just went to get Guinness from the or dark beers from the refrigerator, and they're doing it right now. I know Michael Homar's doing it, Evan Kleberg's doing it, maybe a few others. That's brilliant. I love that.
So I
That's
do
amazing.
have to warn you that a regular dark beer or a sweet stout, it's not going to have the same effect. But with a Guinness, when you do sip this after your mouthful, you will do you will be surprised. There's a sweetness, a cleanliness. It clears your palate in some special way, and it's like science on your tongue. It's I like it.
Okay, I need. Okay, so that's a great line. Science on your tongue. You know,
It happens in the dark of your palate.
That's great. So, and actually, I'm glad that Russ just asked a question that he did because Russ asked a question about, the higher alcohol content. So the third one we're tasting today is the 121, but you're talking here about pairing, the Guinness with the 101. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
done that with the 121 as well?
It, I think I have, but I can't remember that evening.
Okay.
Uh, it's one of those things.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah,
I'm
it
shocked. I'm
probably goes
shocked,
down
Tom,
too
that you
easy.
can't remember that evening. I'm just totally shocked.
Yeah, the one when you taste the 121, you'll see that it has a few different notes to it that it develops over time. But the 101 has just got this incredible cleanliness in
Hmm.
its flavor profile, and the explosion of that sweetness on your palate is great. There's certain flavors, the grain flavors in that Guinness are very complementary with the grain flavors in the 101, and we make a an old fashioned that we're going to make a big deal about for St. Patty's Day,
Nice.
which we call the Austin Wild uh, old fashioned, and we make it with instead of simple syrup, we make it with a Guinness reduction syrup. So
Oh,
we actually boil Guinness with a little sugar.
oh.
It's sweet and bitter and
You see,
so
I'm
rich.
thinking about, I hear you say that,
Yeah.
and several of us on here, like Eric and I, and Evan, and a few others, we actually have competed in kosher barbecue competitions.
Mm.
Okay. And as soon as you mentioned making a Guinness reduction with some sugar, I'm thinking of a barbecue sauce.
Oh, it would be special.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I immediately, and the funny thing is that there's so much marriage between the whiskey world and the barbecue world. One of the other distilleries that we've met, Thornton Distillery up here in Chicago, they actually gave Eric and me a bunch of shavings from a barrel from their pecan whiskey that
Mm.
we used in our smokers.
Ooh, we.
Yeah, yeah. So there's so much marriage here, but as soon as you mention that reduction, I'm immediately, yeah, I'm immediately thinking barbecue sauce, got to do it. Um, but let's get back to your whiskey here.
Okay.
So, barrels. Okay. So you talked about what is allowed for light whiskey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the barrels that were used for 101.
All right. We started with I mean all bourbon barrels. Many of our bourbon barrels, the 53s that we had came from Kentucky, but we found local sources. And to the extent possible, we went with small form factor. Part of that was as strong and virile as I look, I know uh, schlepping around a 53-gallon barrel full of whiskey is not for old men. And I found that I could tilt a 25 gallon barrel and get it from its side onto a pallet. I also found that 25-gallon barrels impart their flavor and do their magic faster than 53s.
Hmm.
Almost by a factor of two, certainly 60 or 70% faster. And it has to do with the geometry of the square inches in contact with the per liter of liquid that's inside, and the ratio is not linear. The smaller the barrel,
Right.
the
And
more
what kind? And
contact.
so is that the virgin? Was that the virgin barrel or is that the
No,
barrel? Okay.
we started right from the get go with uh, uh,
Ex-bourbon?
recycled or used bourbon barrels. Yes,
Okay.
we sourced them as much as we could locally, partly for freight reasons, but
Sure.
also the whiskey that's aged in Texas is aged in these really hot summers. The
Hmm.
temperature fluctuation from night to noon is
Right.
incredible.
Right. I've been to Waco. I've been to Balcones in Waco.
Okay.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
And so we love those barrels. They have been well permeated with the original bourbon. They're just so mellow. Um, we think the very fact that barrel has held high quality bourbon for a few years
Hmm.
in Texas summers seasons the wood in a very
Oh,
special way.
sure. So,
And that
well, and
wood
also
is mellow.
because
Mhm.
also that temperature fluctuation you're talking about, that they some people call that an active barrel, okay? Because
Hmm.
the spirit inside that barrel is going to go into, get into the grain and out depending on the weather, okay, and how hot and cold it is. And if you have wide fluctuations, you get more of that. So are you using any virgin barrels for your whiskeys, or is everything the ex local bourbon?
Everything is ex local bourbon or
Okay.
ex Kentucky bourbon in a few cases.
I love the word. One word that we learned many years ago is the word terroir. Okay, I'm sure you've heard that word terroir. And
Hmm.
it sounds like you've got it 100% here because your barrels are local. The barrels are from whiskey that's made locally, and all of your grain is local. So, I mean, you've got, I mean, you're really doing everything local, which is great, which we love.
We sure are, and we're using local water. I mean, we are very proud of the hill country water. I know we purify it to a high degree, but it comes out. Hill country water is renowned for its clarity, for low nitrogenation
Hmm.
and incredible clarity. It's also pretty hard when we
Okay.
first get it. It's got a minerality to it. Um,
So you do
yeah,
some
we're
filtration.
pretty local.
You do some filtration on it, or do
Yes,
you
we
keep
do.
the hard water? Okay, got it. So
So that removes some of the hardness.
right, some of the
Absolutely.
hardness. But then again, light whiskey, just in general, because of the higher proof that is coming off the stills, is going to be lighter anyway than most of the other whiskeys that we're tasting because of the higher proof it's coming off.
Correct, but not.
Tell me.
The reason why I say but not, it comes off the still at a higher proof. It goes into the barrel at 125. Now, bourbon by law cannot go into a barrel at higher than 125.
Right.
Blended whiskeys can, light whiskey can. We choose not to. We follow a lot of the rules that
Hmm.
bourbon does.
Okay.
We consider them purity rules. Blended whiskey, light whiskey, you can put caramel color in it. You can
Right.
add generally accepted as safe
Right. But you
compounds
don't
up
do
to
any. But you're
3%.
not
We don't
doing
do any of
anything
that.
like that.
Nah,
No.
this
And
is no.
and how long is this aged?
Well, let me just go back to the one to the 125 and why
Hmm.
that's important. We go
Hmm.
into the barrel at 125. Light whiskeys can go in at a lot higher,
Right.
but 125 is what we choose. And many bourbon makers go in at less than 125, as low as 115. Um, and the interesting thing is, this went into the barrel at 101 at 125, and we proof it down with local water. The 121 you're about to try went into the barrel the same,
Okay.
125, and it ends up at 136 because of the Texas summers. So now you were asking me, and I
How long? How
how
long are they in the
long?
barrels?
Okay, we have an age statement on the Austin 101, and the age statement is at least 101 days.
101. Okay.
Okay, so
101.
that was a marketing thought. Uh, we one barrel might be ready at 101 or 120 days. Another barrel might not be ready till 180. So
But
we
that's also
do.
the proof. That's also the proof as well.
It is. That's why it was a bit of a marketing thought. And
Okay.
101 is an interesting number. I don't know if any of you
Yeah.
are number theory people, but it's a good number.
Yeah, I love that number. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good number. So, um,
And I'll
now
tell you
let's
what,
move on to another number.
when we get to the questions and answers later,
Yeah, yeah,
and
we'll
you
get
can
to
put,
yeah.
I'm going to ask you when you look at the bottle, and not just you, I'm going to ask
Oh,
the
everybody.
members of your
Hmm.
organization, when you look at that bottle and you see the symbology of Austin 101 with the line under it, does it bring anything to mind? What does that bring to
I mean,
mind?
I'm
And we'll
thinking,
talk about that
I
later.
mean, I'm looking at like maybe some binary stuff and some factorial stuff, you
Well,
know?
I mean, I have a background in computers,
Yeah, number
so
theory
it might
stuff.
be
Yeah,
that.
there's definitely something there like that. But we could go down
Yeah. But
that
let's talk
rabbit
whiskey,
hole.
right?
Yeah, now I'm starting to think of like the Star Trek Next Generation episode with the Binars in season one, and we could really be in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go on to the 111.
All right.
Okay. So you said that 111 is a different grain mixture than 101.
Yes. And that one, I got my partners to agree we will disclose exactly what our mash bill is,
Ooh, nice.
uh, because I think it's important for people to know what they're drinking.
So what is the
Um,
mash bill?
the mash bill is 70% Texas uh, rye,
Texas rye.
and it is 30% Texas non-GMO white corn. So it's the same white corn as is in the 101, but the rye, it's 70% rye. So it's very, very spicy. And the reason the
Oh, I'm
government
having a
would not,
moment, Tom. I'm having a moment here. Hold on.
the government would not let me put the word rye next to the word whiskey anywhere on my bottle because they protect the word rye whiskey just like they do bourbon whiskey
Mhm.
and just like Scotland does Scotch whiskey. So I wasn't allowed to put the words next to each other. So we have the word rye everywhere else we can put it on the bottle, and
Oh,
we're
this is a flavor bomb.
it isn't it something?
Yeah, this is a flavor bomb. How now was this in the barrel for 111 days, or did you move on
One
from
year.
that?
This we
So this
moved
is a
on.
year. This has more
One
wood.
year.
Yeah.
This is 1 year, uh,
Mm.
and it's aged a little bit differently than the 121.
How so?
The it is a small amount of water is added during the time that it's aging, and it goes into the barrel at 125, and it comes out of the barrel at 111, and it's bottled at full cask strength. But we gradually bring it to 111. What I discovered, we experimented with this for 3.5 years before we came out with this. But what we discovered is that at 111 proof, or around 110 or 112, what
Mm-hmm.
a stickler. But at 111 proof, it draws this butterscotchy sweetness from the bourbon barrel
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't get at 125. So we did this slow reduction to get that, and we're very proud of it. I mean, we've won 3 gold medals on
Yeah.
this already. It's only been out for a few months.
You know, this reminds me, I had a rye-based vodka. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I had a rye. I think Koval actually. I think Koval locally makes that. It's a rye vodka, and there's something, and people are going to laugh. One thing that you'll notice later when you look at the comments, because Eric can print up the comments for you, is that some of the people in here have a drinking game when I tell about specific stories or use specific words.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the words, here we go, their favorite word, mouthfeel. Okay.
Oh,
All right.
yes,
All right. And you can all check it off your bingo card. Okay. Gil used the
it's
word
in there.
mouthfeel. All right. And this has a little bit of the same mouthfeel as that rye vodka. There's something about, the rye grain and how it's distilled it's just, it's coating my mouth in a really good way,
Mm. And
and I love this.
it,
How do you, by the way, how do you enjoy this? Like, what types of cocktails and stuff like that do you make out of this?
well, I will be honest. Most of the 111 that I have had, I'm making old fashioned out of it. I think it makes the most spectacular old fashioned. Uh, the it's high enough proof, and the spice is great enough that it can really punch through the sweetness and the little bit of orange peel that's
Hmm.
in that old fashioned, and you know that
Yeah,
you're having
citrus.
a
Yeah,
rock.
citrus would pair great with this.
It does,
Yeah,
and you'll notice there's a little bit of a fruitiness
right.
to the 111 on its own. It's an interesting combination of flavors on the palate. The thing that I think is cool about this is most people, because our exposure to rye is the typical American style rye whiskey, which is 51% or a little bit more rye, and it's aged in freshly charred barrels, and it ends up being having this sharpness, angularity
Mhm.
of the char, a little bit of sharpness just because it's new wood,
Mhm.
and our wood has been seasoned, and it doesn't have that heavy char on it.
Yeah,
You can actually taste the rye grain,
yeah, you do
and I
taste it here. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know how
definitely.
much of that is because it's Texas rye versus
Right.
a northern rye, or it's just that it's treated so
Right, but
much
it's amusing
differently.
to me that you can't use the word rye on the labels. Um, because but I understand why. I mean, it doesn't meet the it doesn't meet the criteria for what we call a straight rye. Okay, it
Right.
doesn't meet that criteria. It's distilled differently, it's aged differently, and all that stuff. Um, but it is very rye forward, and which is why Todd Coe here mentioned that he wrote in here, I could drink Manhattans with this all day.
It
You know.
makes a fantastic Manhattan.
Yeah, no, this is great. So, somebody asked another question, and by the way, y'all can start moving on to the 121. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I have a question specifically for you, Tom. Many of us here know people in the spirits business. We know the retailers.
Hmm.
We don't just know the distributors, and the distillers, but we know the retailers as well. We've gotten to know them, and we've also gotten to know the people who market this stuff. How do you sell a product that most people don't understand or are unaware of? Okay, the light whiskey. I mean, there's still people who don't understand the difference between bourbon and whiskey. They think that that somehow they don't think that bourbon's whiskey. Okay, or Tennessee whiskey versus you know, and then here you have this completely different category, light whiskey, right? How do you educate the public on that?
it's it's a blessing and a curse, Gil. The blessing is if they like it, there really isn't anything like it. Well, we go out of our way to say it's a whiskey like no other. I don't think we're fooling ourselves to say that. There is a uniqueness to these products. And if they like it and they go back to the store to get one like this, it's the only one like this. So that's the blessing. And the curse is, as you said, nobody walks into the store for the first time in their life and says, I think I'll try a light whiskey today. And hopefully my evangelizing will help
Right.
to some degree on that. I started out kind of the way your group did. I don't know whether you can see this little bottle, but
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
we
Yeah,
we nailed
yeah, you
out.
see here? You see? I got
There you go. So we introduced the Austin 101 on March 7th of 2020 at
Oh.
the Texas Whiskey
Oh.
Festival. I
Oh
shook hands
no.
with 1,200 people. We won the People's Choice Award that night. I don't know of anybody that was there that got COVID, but no one could see each other again for 6 months. It
Right.
was awful.
Right.
And I started doing tastings like we are tonight by mailing these things out, giving them
Hmm.
away, uh, and
And we're still doing it. We're
and we're
still doing
still
it.
doing it. Yeah, that's right. Was it 6 years later?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, I
time
mean
flies.
that's almost exactly 6 years ago. Yeah, that's incredible. And so you're right. I mean, the whole concept of educating the public is difficult. Places like Binny's and the Craft Spirits Association, they really try to educate people and get the word out. And one thing that Eric and I really wanted to commit ourselves to with this group, since we go to so many tastings, is to introduce people to new types of spirits. Primarily in the whiskey category because that's where we lean, but you know introducing new distilleries to people, a lot of craft
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and Binny's has been wonderful for that, to get that done and to help people with their Binny's card, with their bingo card. Obviously, our friend Brett Patani is one of the people who is a huge evangelist for the craft spirits industry, which is great.
Absolutely.
Um, so, one thing I want to mention before we go specifically on to the 121, everybody, I posted here, and actually I'm going to post it again. Binny's does not yet carry the Austin Spirits. They're working on it. So I've posted here in the chat that there are two places from which you can order. Okay. And so those links are there. And of course, you can contact Eric and me later, and we can put you in touch with that stuff. So, on to the 121. The 121, as you mentioned, is the same, blend of grains, okay, as the first one, where you have the white Texas white corn, you have the Texas red wheat, and you have the Texas toasted barley, okay? So I
Yes.
know that we have that. This is a much higher proof, 68.2, okay? So it's a higher proof. Is this aged for any longer than a 101, or is this aged for the same amount of time and just bottled at a different proof?
It's aged longer.
Okay.
It is rebarreled. Every bottle that I've made so far, and perhaps that I will make, has been a favored uh, of mine, uh, small form factor barrel. So we have a lot of the 101 is aged in 53s. This will be rebarreled into a 25 or even a few
Ah,
15s or
interesting. And
and
again,
30s.
and that 25 again is an ex bourbon, a Texas
All
ex
are
bourbon.
ex
Okay.
bourbon,
Okay.
exactly. They're very seasoned. They're the kind of barrels you would expect to have a Highland malt aged in. Ex, they're very, very mellow.
Oh, this is
Uh,
it's like wow, this is like syrupy and minty. It's in a good way. This is fascinating. Um, I'm even getting like some chocolate notes, on
Very
this.
cool. So
Yeah.
one of the things I look for in the barrels that we go forward and put the 121 into is I look for something special, something spicy. And the one I'm working on right here is different than the bottle that you have.
Hmm.
This one was black peppery. It's spicy. It's a little bit of the entire spice cabinet actually on my nose. Sometimes it's more the chocolate or even more just more intense butterscotch and vanilla that the 101 has if it's just really rich and creamy.
Does it also pair well with Guinness, or you still
Well,
prefer
as I
101?
said, I think it probably does, but I can't
You
remember
don't
having done
remember.
it.
Yeah, that must
It's
have been a
it
good
is
night.
it
That must
oh
have been a
yeah.
really good night.
I don't know whether I'll remember much of tonight either because I'm on my third glass. But
Well, I
the
will tell you that these are higher proof than most of the stuff we usually taste here. I'm almost glad that we only have three. Every once in a while, a distillery sends us five samples, and five samples of this high proof stuff. Yeah, that would be rough. That would be a very rough evening. This is just the right amount of this stuff. But this is great. And so let's go back to the cocktails thing because
Well, no,
I
but I'm gonna. You asked me how long it's aged for,
yeah.
and I never quite answered that question.
Got it.
I'm gonna force you to listen to the answer. Uh, it's aged at least two Texas summers. The one that I'm sipping right now is
Wow.
uh, more than two Texas summers. It's actually three Texas summers, and at that time, at that point it went to 70.4 ABV hazmat. I think I have one more barrel of that, of this same, of its sibling,
Hmm.
another little 25-gallon barrel. And
Wow.
and I will not bottle it until it hits that. But most of it will get bottled at any point north of 130 proof now,
Okay.
and at least two Texas summers.
Right. And we talked about the climate. Uh, can you go longer than like three, Texas summers? Because the angel share starts to have an effect.
It does. The one that I'm sipping here, we lost almost 50%. I would say we lost
Wow.
45% of the liquid.
Okay.
Uh,
So that's after two Texas summers.
well, that the one I'm sipping is three
Three.
Texas
Okay.
summers, and but the one you're sipping is at least two, probably close to three at 136 proof.
Right.
Yeah, it's very
Right. And this
that's
started,
2 years old, going on
right.
three.
And you said that this started in 53-gallon barrels and then was moved to the 25. Is that what you said?
Mostly, some of them have been in 30-gallon barrels for most of its life and then moved to a 25, but they all end up getting moved into a favored barrel. And
Okay.
the barrels that I put them in, believe it or not, they have had more than they're more than first fill. I
Hmm.
mean, I get to love them
Yeah.
after I've used them once, which is after they've been used twice. So there are distillers that'll tell you that the barrel it's like a tea bag. It loses all of its flavor after it's been used once. Uh-uh. They
You know,
just like in Scotland, they get a character to them, and
Right.
They can, just like some of us that are, past 40 years old. I think there's a handful of us. In some ways, we get better.
Like we get better with age for sure. So you should know that Evan, who was one of the people drinking a Guinness here, he wrote, "OMG, paired with the Guinness, the 121 becomes smoother on the front end and a nice slow sting on the back end." And
Ooh.
then he says something which could go the wrong way with this crowd. He says tongue science. And we're not going there, but I love it.
Oh, that's great.
Another question we had here is, well, so your distillery itself, what is your annual output? Okay, so how many barrels a year are you producing?
This year it'll, oh, barrels. This year it'll be less than 4,000 cases. Next year,
Okay,
hopefully, we're more than 4,000 cases.
okay,
A and the number of barrels depends on which sizes they are. I can get 15 to 18 barrels. I'm sorry, 15 to 18 cases out of a 25 or 30 gallon barrel
okay.
of 121 after the angel share and everything is gone.
Right, right, right. You're right. Exactly right. We can't really use the term barrel with you because you're using both 53s and 25. So that's
And
why,
30s, and
right,
we've stopped using 15s. They're just
right,
too big a hassle.
right. So that's why using the concept of cases is more accurate for what you're
Right.
doing. Okay, that makes sense. Great. All right. So we are 45 minutes into this. I want to give everybody a chance to ask questions. So first, Eric, can you can you talk to us here about what questions you have for Tom?
Actually, I got a couple, and I think I caught the end of the first question. I was distracted. So you said everything goes into used bourbon barrels. So that would be the first fill. How often or how many times do you reuse a barrel? Um,
I hope to reuse them an infinite number of times until they become mechanically unsafe. The ones we retire are the ones that spring a bit of a leak. If they start to uh, lose the amount of color they're providing, we blend them more or we age it longer. So we adjust to get the most use out of our barrels. The barrel is a very, very big part of our investment. Even though we're
mhm.
buying used barrels, they're still expensive and we care for them. And we also look at the fact that using recycled barrels, we're giving those trees another life. They give their first life to the woodlands and they give their second life to Kentucky for the bourbon makers or to Texas for the bourbon makers. And they give their third life and fourth life and maybe fifth and sixth lives to me for light whiskey. And I just like to think of them as getting better and better until they spring a leak.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wasn't sure with the hot Austin
They
summers
take
if you
longer.
if
It takes longer to do its job, but who cares? In some ways, the more time that the whiskey spends in that barrel and the more summers and seasons that it gets, the better the whiskey gets.
awesome.
Beautiful. Great.
And you were speaking of the 121 being two Texas summers. Um, how different do you see the whiskey that you start distilling in the winter versus product you start putting in barrels in the summer on the aging process?
The the it's the summer is so much faster. It's that the temperature swings are much more drastic. Actually, if you look at the weatherman, he would tell you the temperature swings are greater in the winter, but they swing between numbers that don't really have that much effect on whiskey. I mean, in the winter, today it was 80. 2 months ago, it was not 2 months ago. 2 weeks ago, it was 20 degrees here. So those are some pretty big swings. In the summer, it's more likely to go in the same day from 68 at night or 70 to around our barrels. It might be 120, and it's that heat. It's that really makes it happen fast. Because not only does the heat cause the liquid to expand and go into the pores in that wood, but the heat speeds up chemical reactions.
Hmm.
So between those two things, the summer makes the difference.
Okay. And do you feel like there's a difference in taste on, you know, in a year's time of things that start in the winter versus starting in the spring or starting in the
I have
summer?
not noticed that. Uh, what
Okay.
what I have noticed is that we tend to blend multiple barrels. Uh, when we're making the 101, it's probably the time when we're the most careful to make sure that we have the appropriate level of age on every barrel. And some of them might be 6 months, and some of them might be 4 months. And uh, I can't say that we've got a. I wish I could say that there was a complete science around it, but it's more like, and compare it to what we did last time, and eyeball and craft. Then, and we don't use colorimeters, whatever you call them. We
Use
use
your eyeballs.
eyeballs, noses, and palettes.
Love it. That's great.
Love it. That's great.
Eric, do you
Thank you
have any
very
other
much.
questions?
Nope, that's it for
All
now.
right. So, Lynn, I'd like you to unmute because I think that Lynn, I'd like you to ask your question that you posted in the chat. If you can unmute for us, please.
I did. Um, First of all, I'm really enjoying the hazmat. So I don't think, I mean, it needs water, but it doesn't need nearly as much as I had anticipated. I like it. Um, do you ever, once your barrels are unusable for whatever reason, you said leaks, do you have a cooperage that you can send them to so they can be kind of recycled, reused, reusable? What happens to the ones that are
There,
spent?
there is a local cooperage. We haven't started using them yet. I have a stack of staves that we're collecting at this point, and at someday we're going to do. We may sell them for barbecue because
Oh,
I'll tell you
beautiful.
what, they are. I have used them, and boy, do they make a piece of kosher pork like
No.
it. Well, I don't know if the stave is blessed by a rabbi, doesn't that count?
Yeah.
Depends on the rabbi. Depends on the
But
rabbi.
I'm actually serious about. I don't know how you would recycle through a cooperage something where you really don't want new char. I don't know if
Right.
they can be redone with just a toast.
The cooperage that we're talking to in Hill Country will toast,
Ah,
but exactly how they're planed before they're toasted, I'm not sure because they
okay.
can't we can't reach the point where they've been charred. But retoasted, I think they'll be wonderful.
Great. Wonderful.
Interesting, interesting. I don't think I have the palate to really comment on the almost hazmat. I don't think it's quite hazmat. It certainly didn't need nearly as much water as I had anticipated for that ABV. And it's funny, it's really different from the 101 with the same mash bill, no matter what I do. Why
It's
is that? Is it the aging?
it's the aging, and it's a quality, really well seasoned barrel. Um, I, I, I'm glad that you find that feeling. I don't know that I can explain scientifically what it is that changes, but there are changes. I think that certain certain esters are created. There's the creation of spiciness
Yeah.
and notes that are not there in the grain right off this
Right, but
still.
but also it's there longer, and it's in the Texas summer longer. I mean, there's more going on. There's more of an opportunity for it to be active with the barrel.
Mhm.
Let's go on to Michael Bloom. Michael, please unmute.
Sure. So, Tom, it's great to have you here with us. And I have to say that we've talked to a lot of people who have whiskey in their lives as professionals who came to it after something else sometimes. But
Mhm.
the passion that you have is palpable in your voice. And I'm just wondering what inspired your love story with whiskey? Why is it whiskey that you're putting yourself into in the way you have?
Well, used to be, or I studied formally to be a chemical engineer, and then I went into computer science, and I ended up with all this dry stuff, pieces of paper and computer screens. And so I picked up hobbies at home, and some of them were foodie related hobbies, and some of them were fireworks related hobbies. Um, I have pickled or fermented everything you can get your hands on. The very first spirit I made, one of my co-founders, who was an ex-Dell employee along with me, was from France, and he thought that an eau de vie made from Texas peaches, which are really, it's a spectacular fruit that does not travel well. You can hardly get it outside of hill country because it doesn't travel. It's just too ripe when it's perfect. So he thought an eau de vie made from this would be spectacular, and it got us involved with local distilleries, and we got some time on a still, and we learned a whole lot about it. And that was our start. It was 2018 or so, and we ended up processing 2,000 pounds of peaches in my wife's kitchen. And I had help. It wasn't me and my wife only. And we ended up making a bunch of, I don't know if I don't have one here, but we made a bunch of 375s of peach eau de vie. And it was an incredibly wonderful learning experience. It was a great sensory experience. It was a terrible business idea. But at the time that we started learning about this, we realized that, for 12 cents, you can get a good grain, whereas for $2 to buy some fruit, and the fruit doesn't last, and it's only there at a certain time of the year. And just from a business standpoint, it made a whole lot more sense. So we started experimenting with whiskey, and specifically light whiskey, because we're all getting a little older, and we didn't want to have to wait 12 years to find out whether it was any good. And that kind of got us started in the light whiskey direction.
Love
it. And we loved what we made.
That's great. Michael, thanks. Do you have any follow-up?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ariel, please unmute.
Ariel? Hey, thanks for talking with us, Tom.
Sure.
I wanted to get some clarification because initially you had talked about with light whiskey using virgin uncharred oak, but what I've been hearing all evening is using ex-bourbon. So yeah. Is that more of a categorical exception with the virgin uncharred oak?
Oh, I'm sorry. The law says one or the other. It has to either be used cooperage or uncharred.
Okay.
And so, unused but uncharred.
So when you get these ex-bourbon barrels, you just completely scrape the char off. And
no, I'm sorry.
They might get retoasted, or
I don't need to do any of those. I can take a wet barrel that has just had bourbon dumped, and I can fill that with light whiskey, and that counts as used cooperage.
Okay.
So the only time the word uncharred matters is if it's not used cooperage.
Okay. Cool. And also, thank you for telling Gil to let you finish, because I have not heard that in our tastings before.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Sure. Remember, I can just keep muting you. Just remember that. I do have the power.
He does.
You can tell Tom that we know each other very well here. Mr. Myers from St. Louis, please unmute.
Yes. So I actually recently discovered, fairly recently, a couple years ago, this light whiskey thing, which I really like. It was a different company, and I'm trying to remember their name. I think they're out of Virginia Beach or something like that, 3D or something. They do a lot of light whiskeys, which I really love. I especially love the high proof stuff. But I was curious because you also make an 85, which is 42.5, which I was curious about because I do like the high proof stuff. So
the reason why so we were looking to try to pick the right three products for us to taste here tonight. And the 85 is not the one for this group. It was a separate project. It was my second expression. And the objective of 85 was to come as close as we could to the experience of 101, but get it on the shelf at $30. And in order to do that, we had to give up one primary thing, which was the devotion to Texas grains. Yellow Dent costs 8 cents compared to the 25 cents we pay for Texas white corn. So it is primarily Texas grains, but when I say primarily, I mean 51%. And it's really quite wonderful. It's smooth, easy to drink. It has similar flavor profile and nose in that it's vanilla and butterscotch forward, but it doesn't have the minerality. It doesn't have the intensity of flavor, and it's 85 proof.
Now, do you have to chill filter that, or?
Actually, I should chill filter it. I've had some mistakes. So you bring up a really interesting nerdy question. When you go much below 100 and you're proofing down, there is a danger of flocculation or of turning cloudy. If you've ever poured pastis and added water to
I
it,
love
you see how
pasties.
I do too. Well, I've had that happen to my 85, and the only way around it is a very, very slow reduction of proof. So our 85, we go through multi-step, multi-stage proof reduction and avoid the need. Chill filtering would work too, but this is maybe a little more costly this way, but non-chill filtered, I think we save a little bit of the flavor.
Well, I know I have lots of older beers that if they get a little cloudy or stuff at the bottom, this means you have to pour it slowly and just not drink that last like quarter inch at the bottom.
I understand.
Love it.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Todd Coe, please unmute yourself.
All right. Thanks again, Tom, for talking to us tonight. I'm curious. I ask a lot of whiskey distillers and blenders. When you started out, was there a particular flavor profile you really wanted to produce? Whether that was, barrels by somebody else that, you like, this is great if I could make something like this. Or was the flavor profile of your whiskey something you discovered by happy accident through trial and error as you built up your inventory?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I mean, we went through hundreds of experiments, trying different things. And ultimately, we started getting into a practice of doing what we called binary testing, where we would get together every week and taste numerous samples of things, alpha versus beta, which one's better? Alpha versus beta, which one's better? And I don't think we were aiming for this particular flavor profile, which is the nuttiness, but primarily this butterscotch, vanilla, smooth, round mouthfeel. See, I said mouthfeel again, so twice on that bingo card.
Thank you.
But I do think that the 101 has a pretty unusual mouthfeel for a 101 proof whiskey. It's very, very different than a Wild Turkey 101, for example, which I think is a very wonderful bourbon at 101 proof, but it's a very different mouthfeel. So let me go back to your question. I think as we started doing experiments, we found that used barrels and a mash bill similar to this, that we could get this butterscotchy, buttery, round mouthfeel, and we adjusted fire and we adjusted our target towards what was possible, and we were very excited about where it was leading us. When we took this product first to a foodie event, it was a local farm tour, and we showed it to 400 foodies, and we wanted to know, do people like this? Because it was so different than bourbon or Irish or Scotch. It was just so different. And we were just so highly encouraged to put this on the shelf. They wanted it. So I don't know. It was thrilling.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
That's great. So Tom, I have a few other quick questions for you before we adjourn to the after session. Um, Availability. So we know that your spirits are available online through your distillery and also through sealbacks. In how many states are you currently available?
We're for online. We're only available on the shelf in Texas, and that's it.
Okay.
We're in 900 stores in Texas. We're in the bigger chains, and but outside of Texas, we're not in any stores. Sealbox has us in. They are in D.C., where I don't think they know how to spell three-tier because it was invented there, and they ship anywhere they want. And our own um, web store, we have a third party that acts as an agent and
Okay.
buys the product for you and get here in Texas from a licensed dealer and has it shipped to you.
Okay. So that means that when you do end up on the shelves at Minnie's, that this will be the first place out of Texas that it's on the shelves, right?
It sure will be. And
Okay.
we're
Well,
excited about it.
okay. So when that happens, you need to send an email to Eric and me.
Okay.
Okay. And we will get the word out to our people, okay, to let them know that it is available. Okay. That's
Wonderful.
important. Okay. Um, the other question I have for you, uh, your distillery. Okay. So if anybody here happens to be in Austin, okay, do you do distillery tours? What's it like to visit your
Yeah,
distillery?
I'm sorry to tell you, to visit our distillery, you're going to see a locked door that's not very inviting. We and we're one of the few that's like that. But we started a little over a year ago to do a plan to make a really nice visitor center,
Okay.
and we have a pretty long lease on the place that we're in, and it's pretty hard to move a distillery. I don't know.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, uh, it turns out just as we started this project, a major road project was announced,
Okay. All right.
and we decided not to invest
Okay.
hundreds of
So
thousands
when
of
that
dollars.
changes, when that changes, let us know. Okay. Because
Absolutely.
um, many people here do travel and they like to know what distilleries there are available for visiting and stuff like that.
We have a
Um,
wonderful whiskey trail here in Central
mhm.
Texas, and you will definitely have a good
Okay.
time and see some
Well,
wonderful
well,
bourbons being made.
well, William Myers just mentioned that the Drammers are having an event, their annual Drammening event in 2027 is going to be in Austin. So
Oh,
uh, we could also put you in touch with the people from Drammers if you don't know them at this point yet.
I do not know them at this
Okay,
point.
we can work on that. Michael Nolan also just messaged me that he has a question. So, Michael, could you please unmute yourself? I know you're a fan of light whiskeys.
I am, and I couldn't find the raise your hands signal. So,
Oh,
but Tom, you're distilling on a column still, correct?
yes, and even more so.
Okay,
We it's a steam sparged.
so what? Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I was reading on your website. It's so this is just not steam coils in the still, or
Nope. So a typical column still has got essentially a pot of boiling mash. And a really good one has got steam coils or steam jacket around the pot so that they can keep the temperature very well controlled. However, that mash will boil for hours and hours, and the result will be that the liquid is changing and the vapor is changing during those hours that the still is running. Uh, that is a batch oriented column, and the column above it is the thing that's in common with the way that we're distilled. The column above it has got plates, and the plates have bubblers. It's complex plumbing that allows the vapor to rise through a layer of liquid in what is essentially a big pipe, and the bubble through, reheating, and redistilling the liquid until it goes up to the next plate where it's a little bit cooler and it condenses. That's column distillation. Continuous column distillation by steel sparging, there is no boiling involved at all. The bottom third, if you're thinking of this 40 or 45-foot tall pipe with plates, the bottom third of it has got baffles. The steam comes up from the very bottom, and the wash or the beer comes in about a third of the way from the bottom and rains down across these baffles as the steam comes up. As soon as the beer gets to the bottom, it goes out. It doesn't boil. And I think that's an important part of making our light whiskey. The steam as it rises goes through the column, and as it reaches every plate, it essentially is redistilled. So in our case, we're essentially distilled 10 or 12 times on the way to the top. The reason that's important, first of all, it's got to be a really tall and very expensive piece of equipment to work like that. The reason why it's important to us is that what's going on in that pot is something you want to happen in Irish or in a lot of craft bourbons. What's going on in that pot are chemical reactions between the grains and the dead yeast cells and the mash, and it's cooking for hours. And if you know what it's like when you cook a vegetable for a long time, a lot of the flavors are intensified, not always in a good way. And the white dog that comes off of a pot still can be somewhat below beverage quality on the day it first comes off the still. Well, that's different with steam distillation that we rely on, and our distillate is actually, it's sweet and delicious and not funky at all when it comes off of the still. It is of beverage quality, and the reason is because there was no hours of boiling in that pot. So there was no opportunity to intensify the flavors that were present in the dead yeast cells and the spent grains. And it comes off just incredibly clean.
Michael, do you have any follow-up?
I just want to say I enjoy, like Gil mentioned, I enjoy light whiskey. Yours is different and it was really great, but I really, really enjoyed your rye. It was really phenomenal. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
It was a surprise, so I did truly enjoy it a great deal.
No, that's great.
Trying to recruit some other people to buy bottles so I can save on shipping.
Well, make sure you get yourself a bottle of that rye and try a couple of the cocktails we've got.
They're on your website, right? The website has the cocktails.
They are.
Well, thank you so much.
So it is 8:11. What I'd like everybody to do right now is I would like everybody to unmute themselves. And if you are so inclined, pour yourself a little bit more of some of the whiskeys. I am going to finish my sample of the 111, the rye-based one, because like Michael, I just absolutely love this stuff. And I'd like everybody to join me in saying thank you and cheers to our special guest, Tom Buchsbaum.
Thank you.
Thank you and cheers.
Well done.
Sláinte, y'all.
Thank you, Tom.
Sláinte, y'all. So, Tom, before we turn off the recording, do you have any final words for us?
I don't. I'm thrilled to have had a chance to talk to you all. I'm very excited about getting into Binny's very soon. So if you have a chance to say, do you have the Austin 101 yet? Or the Austin 111, do you have it yet? It would help me. Love to hear Brett hear that question several times.
We can do that. We can do that.
Maybe I'll get myself up there to Chicago when it's on the shelf, and I'll sign some bottles for you all.
Let us know, and we could even arrange maybe a tasting and all that stuff with you. So, everybody, again, thank you for being here tonight. Everybody, please stay on.